Have you tried to draw your pets or animals at the zoo or out in nature and struggled to get realistic proportions? Well, what if I told you that drawing just about any animal in the world can be broken down into just 6 steps? And I'm going to share those with you in my video. Even if you think, I can't even draw a straight line or a stick figure, this video is for you. Drawing doesn't take years of experience or fancy tools. It's a skill you can learn like any other, and I'm going to show you how. Now, if you want the extra downloadable materials that I use in the demonstration, you can get those below and print those out for your resources. So let's get started. Greetings and welcome to my demonstration on my 6 steps to sketching success. And we're going to use this deer as an example, but this drawing exercise really isn't about deer. If you learn my 6 steps and follow along, you'll be able to draw anything with ease and confidence and get its proportions just right. So let's get started. So in my 6 steps, we talk about 6 things to look for as you're drawing. First, we're going to block in the basic shapes, a triangle for the head, an oval for the antlers, a rectangle for the neck, a longer rectangle for the body, and these lines for the legs. And while we're doing that, blocking in, we're going to be thinking about our proportions, basically our relative proportions. So, like, for example, how big is the antler set to the head or the body to the block of legs here? Those are about equal. And then we'll start looking at some other things, such as negative shapes. And those are much easier to notice in a photograph than a real animal, but it's good to start with a real photograph here. So we can see these little negative shapes that are between the antlers. We can see a big triangle between the 2 front legs and a big square, plus another triangle for the back leg here, triangle here, and an area here. And related to that, when you're looking at negative shapes, you can also look at angles. So going back to high school geometry. So for example, this angle of the neck to the withers might be 120 degrees. This angle between the belly and the leg might be 90 degrees. Another thing we want to look at is alignments, like what structures are aligned to other structures. For example, the back is very straight in deer compared to elephants and horses. It's very straight and it's pretty much parallel to the belly. So those two are lined up like that. Another thing you can think about is flow lines. And that's sort of how your pencil flows around your subject, as if your subject was a boulder in the middle of a river and the pencil and your pencil line were flowing around it. So now that we've taken a moment to think about blocking in and relative proportions and negative shapes and angles and alignments and flow lines, let's begin to draw this deer. And we're just going to focus on the silhouette, just the outside basic proportions, because that's where you really want to start. That's what often trips people up, and they don't spend enough time with that. And then they move on to adding colors and textures and shadows and highlights and wonder why they're not happy. So let's get started then. So I'm going to start blocking in my shapes. And this deer is about the same height as my paper here. And the deer's feet are in the snow. And so I'll just make a line here for those. Makes it a little bit simpler to draw. And then so we've got sort of an oval here for where the antlers are going to go. And you can see I'm drawing very lightly. And then I'm not going to be doing any erasing either at this point. I'm just going to start. And if I don't like a line, I can change it later. But just getting that and the ear. And then an area for the neck here. That would be sort of a rectangle. little longer, long square. And then we have not much of a neck, a pretty short neck. And then we've got this boxy area for the body. And different kinds of animals, from deer to giraffe to pronghorn antelope, have different proportions between their body and their legs. And a deer have almost equal length, especially if you included the feet that are hidden. So we're going to now think about that. There's going to be another box basically for the feet. And so the legs are going to come out this way basically. So the left leg is reaching forward and the right leg is in the snow and back here. And then we've got the tail, and we've got the rear leg, the rear right leg down, and the left leg coming up a little bit. So you see, I'm just getting that blocked in. Okay, so now we're going to continue to look back and forth, always double checking and thinking about those concepts of relative proportions, negative shapes, angles, and alignment, all 6 of my tips for sketching throughout the drawing process, and continuing to look back and forth. So I'm going to just continue on and just get a little bit closer proportions here. So still not really adding any detail. I'm just trying to get this a little bit better here. So those antlers are going to be here about. We've got the forehead, and there's a little dip here for where the eye is. And then the muzzle is the narrowest part, and then it widens out. And then we have the ear here sticking out there at an angle from the neck and coming into the side of the head a bit. So again, no internal details. We're just trying to get these proportions more correct as we go. And so we've got the neck and the neck. And then there's the shoulder area. And again, they don't have much in the way of withers. It would not be very easy to ride these guys like a horse. They've got some withers, really subtle withers, and subtle hip there. And then that tail lifted up. When a deer runs, they often lift that tail and show that white tail. Here in the West, we have black-tailed deer, but this is the white-tailed deer. Okay, and so then let's continue on with this area. You see the shoulder kind of comes down, and it has an angle here. So, we're going to start thinking about these angles that we're seeing. And then the back of the shoulder comes down into the elbow there. And that leg is reaching forward. Again, still no erasing. But I'm going to notice where the foot is. The foot is kind of right where the neck is. So it's reaching out. And the leg is a bit thicker above the this joint here than below. All righty. And then this other leg, and here's a good place to notice those negative shapes. So there is a separation between those 2 legs. Actually, let's get the belly in first. It's pretty straight. It looks a little skinnier than it is because of the white fur underneath. But anyway, so that other leg is separated from this leg by and see, I can see that area here. And the first one I had a little bit off. So I'm just changing it up. Usually I'll get that rectangle down and then I'll do a little bit of fine tuning. Again, the top of the leg is thicker than the bottom. So I think that's close enough. Okay, and then getting this back area. And again, if you can kind of imagine that there's this hip, and there's the this right here is actually their knee. And again, you see this nice square area here. And that leg is kind of reaching out, and that joint is pretty low. And it's kind of thicker right here. And reaching straight down. Or maybe even angled. So you see, I am just continually looking back and forth and trying to get that a little bit closer. And usually my first lines are not that close. And that's okay. Again, still not erasing. It really helps to just see the line you put that's wrong instead of continually erasing and drawing and erasing and drawing. Okay, then we have the other leg. And again, if you really look at this negative shape between, if you draw that negative shape, it almost draws itself. And we have a nice 90-degree angle here where that leg is lifted up. And we have this negative shape between. And always looking back and forth. And in this case, you see that last joint of the toes, where the toes are. And you see I'm continuing to make this a little bit more accurate. Looking like a mess, but that's how it goes. And don't be intimidated if this doesn't look perfect. Mine certainly doesn't. It is challenging to do legs, but again, if you think of this as just a collection, let me get that tail bigger. The tail is lined up here. If you think of the legs as just a collection of shapes, it'll be easier. Okay, so now I'm finally going to go back and firm up the lines I really like. And again, we're going to think about all of these things at the same time. We've mainly got our relative proportions, but to finish things off, we want to look at things like these angles, these negative shapes between the antlers, and that kind of thing. And if you had actually your, oopsie, I got that a little bit too big, didn't I? So if you're drawing from a pencil, if you're drawing from a photograph, you can finish things up. So it's good that I didn't darken that too much, because now I'm going to fix that. But let's get our antlers in there first. So they've got a pair of antlers. And of course, these antlers grow bigger as the deer matures. And they don't have to be exact. They can be really quite individualistic. And of course, they get more prongs on them as the animal gets older, but they lose them each fall. So that's one. And then the other one, you can draw Again, noticing negative shapes. So we've got that one behind, and then it's coming up like this sort of. And then you can see the other one sort of behind there. Okay. And you see another prong in there that's kind of hidden. All righty. So close enough for government work, as we used to say in the Forest Service. All righty. So then I can fix this head. It's a little too big, isn't it? So I'm going to kind of, and so again, if I had a photograph, that's always good to start playing with a photograph before you start drawing real life. And I think that's a little closer. Yeah, I'm gonna give him a little smile. And we can notice the eye and where it is in relationship to the antler and they've got pretty big eyes. Again, thinking of proportions. Prey animals have big eyes so they can look out for the predators. So you see, I'm still not erasing and I'm not worrying about these extra lines. Those extra lines are actually helping me to get a little bit more accurate. Now this ear, and a lot of this ear is sort of inside of the edge, but we see this nice negative shape here, which helps us to draw the ear. So it actually looks like it has some cuts in it. We're not trying to get too detailed. We're just practicing on these basic concepts, these 6 steps to sketching success for getting your first try, getting your main proportions. So now we've got these withers and we've got the hips. And then let's go back here. We've got the neck, and I think I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. These guys are quite graceful, although the males are a little beefier than the females. So again, I'm continuing to look back and forth and judging what I have here. I think my drawing is a little bit farther back than this guy, so it's not right behind it. But still, we're looking at each part as we draw and just firming it up, not being afraid to change things. Like I see a little bit less of this shoulder. The leg is a little bit thicker here. And then coming down here, and the top part is a bit thicker than the bottom. And again, this is just hiding in the snow. And then this other leg, again, noticing we've got some room between the two. I probably could have had my leg going out farther. Probably could have. It's okay. That's one thing that it doesn't really matter too much sometimes. And the more you know about an animal's shape and how it can change, like while it's walking, the more you'll know if you draw something not exactly as you see it, if it's going to be close enough. So I really wanted to, I have made quite a mess here, and I'm going to lighten these lines, but I can still see what I'm doing. I really need to get this hip a bit closer there. And then this, I think that's going to be a little better. And then down here. And like that. Okay. And then lastly, this one, and again, I made quite a mess, but I can erase this a bit and still see the lines and go noticing those negative shapes. And I think I'm going to make it a little bit lower. I can still see my line and what I want to keep. And I think a little thicker there. And again, if you look at those negative shapes, if you almost draw those, then your animal almost draws itself. All right. So those are my 6 steps to sketching success. And you see we've got our proportions pretty close. And at this point, if you want to keep working on your drawing, you could start adding some highlights and shadows and textures and fur, but that's a lesson for another day. So today I just wanted to get you comfortable with my technique of my 6 steps for sketching success, related to the concepts of blocking in your major shapes, thinking about your relative proportions of each of those shapes, looking at your angles, looking at your alignments, looking at your negative shapes, and thinking about those flow lines, how your pencil might flow over the animal, and that can help you draw it as well. So I hope this was helpful, and keep on trucking. The more you draw something, the better you'll get and the more accurate you'll get. So good luck.